Okay, so it's a new week. Bring Halo Back made a response to my video which I thought I'd respond to. He completely misunderstood some of my points and misrepresented me in front of his audience. First of all, I'm not looking to have aim assist removed. Aim assist is necessary. I'm talking about having it decreased to a balanced level. This will widen the skill gap between controller players as well. Why would anyone be against widening the skill gap? I have a lot more time with controller than I do with keyboard and mouse. I would benefit more if keyboard and mouse players continue to be handicapped. I am doing this because there needs to be a balance. Don't think that because I'm making videos looking to get aim assist decreased that I'm a keyboard and mouse player exclusively. I simply can look at a game I've played for years objectively.
Okay, so he's mentioning his experience with other PC games, the amount of time he has put into other titles. And here's why I don't like that. Because, assuming this is going where I think it is, this is just anecdotal evidence.
While my game time on PC may be seen as anecdotal evidence, I'm not sure how you can overlook the relevant experience I have over you and other players. You say later in the video you don't play mouse and keyboard often. Why would your opinion on this matter be taken more seriously than mine? You've talked about keyboard and mouse players not having the relevant game knowledge and that's why they're losing battles. I have both abundant game knowledge and experience using mouse and keyboard. Wouldn't this make my opinion on this matter undeniably more relevant?
Because someone else who has the same credentials as you could come along and have a completely different take when it comes to aim assist and mouse and keyboard versus controller.
You speak about someone with similar credentials as me coming and having a completely different take. From my experience, I'm yet to see someone that has similar credentials as me have an opposing opinion to me on this matter. This is why I found it necessary to make a response. This isn't an isolated opinion, as the majority of other mouse and keyboard players feel the same way. These are players who have competed in Halo events since Halo 3 that share the exact same opinion. Please point me in the direction of someone with abundant keyboard and mouse experience as well as Halo experience who disagrees with me on my opinion. Honestly, I'd love to speak to them about this issue. You say this statement.
You can't just say, oh, I've played way more PC games with mouse and keyboard, much longer than you have, so I know what's right. It just doesn't work like that.
I'm unsure why you think it doesn't work like that. I saw a video you uploaded in July of last year where you discussed how a more experienced player's opinion should be weighted more than someone who has less experience.
And I know this is going to piss some people off, but I stand by this. Not everybody's opinion should hold the same weight. And like I said, this isn't even just about Halo. I feel that way when it comes to anything. How much credibility your statements and opinions have should be determined by how much experience you have with something. And like, I know that's going to piss some people off and they're going to disagree with that, but like, that just makes too much sense to me. That makes too much sense to me. I can't see how anyone would disagree with that. How does that not make sense? Please tell me how that doesn't make sense. How could you disagree with that?
Why have you changed your stance on this? Or does this only apply when they share the same opinion as you? I do agree with you that opinions should be weighted by the experience of the person making that statement. However, you have completely backflipped on what you said and it seems like you only think this applies when it suits you. When I look for information on topics, I usually check articles written by people with experience. Why is my experience not valid? Experience is respected in the real world. Why do you not respect it for this topic? I think a lot of your arguments are around some keyboard and mouse players just being not good at the game. I'm not sure why you keep bringing this up. There is a huge amount of bad control players who are also joining in on this debate. I've seen the narrative that
shooting skill is like 10% of the game. Yeah,
this simply isn't true.
It is. He says it isn't true. Okay, so that kind of leads me to question his knowledge of the game. I mean, I'm not being a dick, but honestly, shooting skill is like 10% of the game.
I don't know why you are so happy to stay with your shooting is 10% of Halo narrative. This isn't true. You say you question my knowledge of the game for not agreeing with you with this statement. I find that kind of goes against your previous comment on experience. Just so we're clear on this, I have substantial game time in Halo. I have more than 35 days game time in Halo Reach matchmaking. This isn't including custom games where I was scrimming and playing 8s. I have higher ranks in Halo than you do. I got a 50 in hardcore playing from Australia. Playing from Australia, in case you're unsure of how ping works, makes shots not register and makes the game a lot harder than it is playing from NA. The way that matchmaking is set up benefits players from North America greatly, but that isn't related to this video. I have also competed at local LAN since 2011. To say that I'm lacking game knowledge is extremely untrue. I'm experienced at this game, and to make this statement like you do throughout this video that I lack knowledge is simply untrue. Genuinely, I cannot respect someone's opinion when it comes to balancing of aim when they honestly think shooting is 10% of Halo. I believe you see shooting as such a non-issue because the game is literally tracking for you. When you are aiming with a mouse and keyboard, you have to be actively thinking about where your opponent's head is and where you should be aiming, as well as where they will strafe or jump next. This is so much more mental effort than is used when using a controller. You then go on to argue my point about a player with good positioning and bad aim versus a person with bad positioning with good aim.
Okay, so he describes a situation where one player is in a good position on the map, and another player on the opposite team is in a bad position on the map, but that player in the bad position has better aim than the player in the good position. He says that the player who makes an out-of-position play with good aim will win the majority of the battles against a player in a good position with bad aim. And that's really where I question his knowledge of the game, because like I said, shooting skill is like 10% of the game.
You literally cannot argue this issue. If they begin shooting at the same time and the player with bad aim but good positioning misses a shot, the other player wins. You can't argue that. This isn't a point you should be arguing, it's literally just a fact. You say there are a lot of other elements to Halo other than shooting. You list movement, knowing skill jumps, which to be fair I'd consider movement, callouts, spawns, weapon location and weapon times, predicting player movement, grenades and other things that you didn't list. Callouts, weapon locations and times are all aspects of Halo that you can learn in a day. These are all things that you are passively thinking about in every Halo game. Predicting player movement is also just something you don't even think about really unless you're talking about strafing. I wasn't really sure on this. I don't understand how you look at all these things and somehow still stay true to your opinion that shooting takes up 10% of the game. I'd argue at the bare minimum, Halo is 60 to 70% aim and gun skill. Please find me someone who has competed at events that thinks shooting represents genuinely 10% of Halo. You then go on to disagree that shooting in close to mid-range is dominated by controller players and say it's because people on keyboard and mouse haven't played as much Halo as controller players. While again, on the surface level this might seem true, except for the people from the Halo CE community who have been playing mouse and keyboard on PC for years. Players have been using keyboard and mouse on PC for years, and as they have transitioned to MCC and versus controller players have complained about a complete imbalance due to inputs. I personally think that these players who have a huge amount of game time have a fair argument, don't you? Again, I think you have severely missed my point. I'm not advocating for a complete removal of aim assist. That wouldn't work. I never said that. I would like a reduction of aim assist to balance the game.
Alright, so yeah, you're getting assistance with your thumb and the stick, but with a mouse you have your whole hand. That's more control. Everything, damn near everything, is easier to do with your hand than your thumb. Like opening a door is easier to do with your entire hand than just your thumb.
I do not know why you keep going back to this point. I'm not really sure how it relates to anything. You mentioned opening a door with your hand versus your thumb. I'm sorry, what? It's easier for me to walk on my feet than it is with my hands. Peeling a banana is a lot easier to do with my fingers than my toes. What is your point? You say my game time using keyboard and mouse is anecdotal, but you're more than happy using points like this. You talk about no-scoping being difficult with a controller, which honestly on a high hertz monitor with a good computer isn't actually that true. I honestly believe no-scoping on controller isn't that difficult if you're competent with a controller.
But there's plenty of sight lines where you can engage other players, even on the smaller Halo maps, not just big team battle maps, where controller players are either getting very little aim assist or no aim assist at all because it's a far distance. And in Halo there's D-scope, so if you're getting shot at, you can't scope in. So if you have a mouse and keyboard player shooting at a controller player from across the map, even on smaller maps, that controller player can't scope in, so he might not be getting any aim assist at all.
What distances do you not get red reticle range at? Once you zoomed in, I'm unsure of any competitive map where you won't get red reticle range. Maybe on a large map like Sanctuary or Pit, there are sightlines where you don't get red reticle. Descoping is something that I can agree with, however it's not as if you cannot rescope in the time while getting shot. This is a practice that everyone has always done.
And you have so many more keys and buttons between the mouse and keyboard that you can bind however you want. You have more freedom there. The more keys and buttons with a mouse and keyboard than you have with a controller, that's not one of my stronger points, but it is worth mentioning.
You talk about having more keys and buttons to use on the keyboard and mouse, which is another strange thing to argue. Xbox Elite controls and scuffs, which is something a large majority of players use at competitions, means you can have additional buttons. You do say it's not one of your stronger points, so I'm not going to go into that.
I've also seen people discussing grenade placements, which is a legitimate point. Obviously, using a mouse gives you the ability to place your grenades a lot more accurately and at a faster rate. However, this is such a minute area of Halo that I still don't see this being game changing. In games like CS or Valorant, where smokes, flashes, or other abilities are important for taking a site or cutting off areas of the map, this is very important. However, since Combat Evolved, I haven't really seen grenades used in a utility way that often. That isn't dismissing the use of grenades, but this is such a small area of gameplay that I don't think it's a large issue. People aren't hopping into games and getting annoyed at the keyboard and mouse players' well-aimed grenades.
Everything he said about grenades, I completely, oh my god, I couldn't disagree more. Okay, so he was mentioning how you can place grenades more accurately with a mouse and keyboard, because you do have more control with your hand. But me personally, I've never made that argument about grenades being easier to throw on mouse and keyboard in any of my aim assist videos, but I do agree that is true. But what really has me shocked right now is how he downplayed the importance of grenades in Halo. He mentioned Counter-Strike and Valorant, how grenades are of more importance in those games. No. The usage of grenades is way more significant in Halo than it is in Counter-Strike or Valorant. Counter-Strike, you only spawn with one grenade? Grenades are a huge part of Halo. And if you disagree with that, then again, I question your knowledge of the game.
Okay, let's talk about the grenade issue. I did not say grenades are unimportant in Halo. I said since Combat Evolved, I haven't really seen grenades used in a utility way that often. When I said in a utility way, I was alluding to the use of grenades to move weapons or to get power-ups, etc. I'm talking specifically about doing grenade lineups. The majority of the time, people are not stopping to line up grenades on certain marks on the map like in a game like CSGO, where they are very important. I then go on to say, that isn't dismissing the use of grenades, but that is such a small area of gameplay that I don't think it's a large issue. I never said grenades aren't important like people are making it seem. If you seriously believe that the use of grenades in Halo is more significant than in Counter-Strike, you are completely delusional. I mentioned smokes and flashes are used to take a site. These are set up with multiple players smoking and flashing specific parts of the map simultaneously. The use of grenades in a game like CSGO is an insane amount more important than Halo. Again, I do think grenades in Halo are important. You have completely misquoted me in an attempt to dismiss one of my honestly weaker points. As weak as that point is, you have completely lied to make it seem like I've said something else to attack my knowledge of the game. Your argument for strong side with two people shooting you is kind of irrelevant. If two people are shooting you, a lot of the time you'll die anyway. If two people are shooting you, chances are that you're out of position anyway, and that goes back to your point about players with good aim and map positioning. In conclusion, I don't think you have refuted any of my points, more have just tried to bring my game knowledge into question. I would like to continue a discourse on this, however I don't really see you budging from this opinion. Again, I am not looking for a removal of aim assist, I'm talking about a balancing moving forward. This is why I mentioned the DMR nerf in Halo 5. Please stop misrepresenting what I'm saying. Have a nice day.